Hi everyone and welcome to DreamSpace TV here in One Microsoft Place in Dublin. My name is Amanda.
And I'm Corey.
In today's episode we are going to learn all about STEAM, and we're also going to be taking on our very first maker challenge, which is to create our own windmill. But first of all, let's talk about steam. And I'm not talking about the type of steam that comes out of your kettle. Am I, Corey?
No. In DreamSpace, we love to explore lots of different subject areas and seeing how they all link together. So now's a good time to pause and let's brainstorm. What could the letters S, T, E, A and M represent? Any ideas, Amanda?
Well, S stands for science. So when we do science, we investigate and experiment and explore new ideas and normally have a lot of fun along the way.
The T stands for technology. And here at Microsoft, we believe that technology can really help enhance our everyday lives. So throughout this series, you're actually going to be embarking in a number of different challenges. And we're going to be asking you to discuss, well, how could technology enhance this project?
Yeah, and E stands for engineering. So there's lots of types of engineers out there. We have structural engineers, civil engineers, and they might be looking at designs of buildings or bridges and making sure they're sound and that they're going to work properly. And then we also have software engineers. So in Microsoft, we have software engineers who are designing our technology and using code to make things work. Later in the series, we'll also use some code, which is going to be pretty exciting.
The A stands for arts. And throughout this series, you're going to be doing a number of different maker challenges, which means that we're going to have to be really creative with some arts and crafts.
Yeah, and the M stands for maths. So when we think about everything we do, we're going to be counting, we are going to be measuring, probably figuring out different problems along the way. So maths is going to be crucial for us too. Now, we are not going to explore these things in isolation. So Corey, we're not going to say, oh, today we're doing science or today we're doing engineering. We are going to be doing STEAM challenges. So we'll have to use concepts and skills from every area to solve the one challenge. We'll also be exploring lots of different coding terminologies to build us up towards the end of our series when we take on some coding challenges specifically.
And every week we're going to pose a brand new challenge to you. And your teacher can decide whether you do the challenge now, or you can watch how we do the challenge and then you can improve upon it later on. Because remember, the first challenge can always be made better. This week's challenge is the windmill challenge. So now's a good time to pause the episode where we are and let's discuss, well, what exactly is a windmill and what is its purpose?
So you might have seen after your research that a windmill has different features. It might be different sizes, it might not look exactly the same. But if we break it down, we can see that actually there's always a base area and then there's always something at the top. Now, this is a fairly miniature windmill. So I have a base here and at the top I have these blades that spin around, or if it's wind, obviously it'll spin by itself. Now, we want you to create your own windmill and we're going to try this too. But what's really important is we want your windmill to be able to stand by itself. So for example, if I put this windmill down on the table, you'll see it falls over. Not ideal. That's not what we want. We want our windmills that we create to stand by themselves without our support. And obviously, if the wind comes along, that the blades at the top spin around. Now, to create your windmill, you can have a good look at home or in school and see what materials you have available to you to do this. I have certain materials here that I'm going to have a look at, and then I'm going to make a plan for how I want to use them to make my windmill. So let's have a look at the materials that we have here in front of us. Okay, so I have a scissors first of all, which is going to be really useful. I'll definitely need to cut some things up. Now obviously I just need to be a bit careful, and you do too if you're using your scissors. I have some cardboard. That's, I think, might come in useful for me too. I can cut that up and maybe use it for structures or something like that. I have some glue that can help me stick some things together. You might have glue, or you might have tape or blue tack. I actually have some blue tack as well. And then actually, interestingly, in this cup I have straws, I have pipe cleaners, some wooden spoons, and I'm going to just take this one out actually. This looks good. This is a skewer. So you might have something like a skewer or a cocktail stick that you could use as well. Bearing in mind the top of this is sharp as well, so we don't want to hurt ourselves, so just be careful with that. but this might be useful for me for the blades of my windmill to spin around. Okay, so based on what I have in front of me, I think I have an idea, but instead of just jumping in and getting to it and making it right now, I think what I'll do is I'll plan it out, make sure I know exactly what I need to use, and then I'll come back and do it. Okay? Sound like a plan, Corey?
Sounds like a plan.
So I'm going to come up here and draw out my windmill, and let's just see what we think. So based on the things I have on my table, there's a couple of things. I'm going to start with my base of my windmill. Like I said, every windmill seems to have a base, and it couldn't be different. So I'm going to start with my cup, I think, Corey.
Okay.
So I'm going to draw my cup, and I'm going to just label it.
Now, one thing I've noticed, Amanda, is that cup looks a little bit different than the cup that's on your table.
Oh, sorry, yes. So my cup is upside down. So I'm going to use, this is the top part because I want that to be solid.
Very good.
Yeah, okay, good point, thank you. So yeah, so that's our cup. And I'm labeling it, and when you're doing your diagrams, can you just make sure to label them as well? Because if your teacher, your parent, or even you yourself want to go back to your diagram, it's always useful to have some labels there. Okay, so I want this to be my base, remember? But I think, Corey, if I put that on the ground outside, it's going to be very low to the ground.
Yeah.
So I think I might use some materials over here. I have straws. I don't know if they'll be strong enough, but I have wooden spoons, and I might try and prop them up that way.
Good idea.
So I'm going to get my spoons, and maybe, how many do I have there? I have 3. So I'm going to do like a tripod effect, I think, for this. And again, I'm going to just label that so I know exactly what I'm using. So that's going to be my base, and hopefully I'm going to have to think carefully now about how I solidify this and make sure it's all solidly together. Okay, now let's think about the top where the blades are. So I talked about over here how I have a skewer and how I can maybe use that in a safe way. So I might put that here and then have my blades kind of coming out.
Good idea.
Yeah, so I'll label that one. And while I'm labeling it, I'm just thinking to myself, how many blades do I actually want? I might use the cardboard for this and cut them into strips. So I have lots of cardboard, so I have lots of options then. So I can decide how many I want. So I might just see what 2 looks like. I think I might go a few more because I kind of want them to really spin around.
Yeah.
So I might actually go, that's 3 and 4. Okay, so this is going to be with cardboard. And again, I need to be careful about how I attach things, and I'll obviously maybe have to use some glue, some blue tack maybe. That's going to be trial and error. We're going to have to figure that out as we go. But I'm fairly happy, I think, with that layout, and I'll see if it works in a little while.
Now that actually looks really good, Amanda, I have to say.
Thank you.
But one thing I would say is that I'm going to approach mine a little bit differently, and that's because we don't have the same materials. So I brought mine in from home, and I actually didn't have that cup. So I have a toilet roll holder instead. So I think this is going to be the base of my windmill, because I think that's going to be really useful. What else do I have? I have a scissors, because I know I'm going to have to cut up some things. And I also have something that's really important, some thumbtacks. Now these are really sharp, so make sure if you're using them at home or in school, you're being really careful. Now my plan for the thumbtacks is to actually attach my blades and my base together. And what can I use for my blades? Well, I have some skewers and I have some A4 paper. And do you know what? I did my homework. And I actually designed out a little rough sketch, I suppose, of what I want my windmill to look like. And you know what? You could actually do this at home or in school yourself with just a sheet of paper like mine and just a pen and just roughly draw out what you want it to look like. But I'm going to show you exactly what I have in mind.
Oh, looking forward to seeing this now, Corey, and see if there's any similarities between our 2 windmills.
Yeah, true. So, as I said, I'm going to use the toilet roll holder, okay? And that's kind of cylinder shaped, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to try my luck at drawing out a cylinder. What do you think? Looking good?
Perfect. Now, don't forget your labels. I'm very fussy about the labels.
True, I better not forget that. And it's a good point, because that means if anybody is looking at my diagram, they can also know what's going on. So this is my toilet roll holder. Now, something else that I need to keep in mind is that I said that I want to use the skewers as my blades. And I have to think, how many do I actually want? And I know you went with like 4, didn't you? But I think I'm just going to scale it back a bit here, and I'm going to go for 2. So I might just use a blue colour for this, and I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm pretty happy with this so far.
Looks
Now,
good.
I kind of need something coming off the blades, don't I? So I have a lot of A4 paper there, and what I'm going to do is, kind of like flags, I'm going to attach them to my skewers. But will I go for a different colour for each flag?
Well, I think you've lots of equipment over there. There's some different coloured card or paper, so it might be nice to change it up.
True.
Might look very cool in the wind actually when it's spinning around.
Oh, yeah, good point. I might go for yellow on this side and red on one side. Yeah, that looks good. Now, I have to make sure I label these, okay? So I haven't labelled my paper yet. So this is my paper. And the blue is my skewers. Now, I've spotted a problem with my design. I don't know, Amanda, have you spotted it yet?
Well, I think like me, you need, where your skewers are, it needs to spin around a certain point.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
that's
I
gonna be
never
important.
drew my thumbtack in.
Yeah.
So, just really quickly, maybe with a multicoloured pencil, I will draw my thumbtack. And you know what? I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now, my final design might look a little bit different, just with trial and error, but I think this would be an excellent opportunity for you now, at home or in school, to pause and design out your own windmill idea or sketch.
Getting on over there, Corey?
Well, I just noticed one major thing.
Okay.
So I chopped up my skewers in half because I wanted to have 2 flags on either side.
Oh, okay.
When in reality, I could have just used 1 skewer.
Okay.
Instead
So
of
you had to
cutting
do a
up
bit of
twice.
patching up there.
Yeah, I did. I basically had to stick them back together. So if I was doing this again, I'd definitely...
Yeah, it's interesting. I was cutting out the pieces for my blades, and the first piece I cut, and I was about to cut the second piece, and I realised better off using my ruler to measure out and make sure these are the same width and the heaviness of them, because I think that would affect when it spins around like that.
True.
And a couple of other things as well, but I'm nearly there, I think.
Same.
Okay, keep going, we'll get there.
I'm finished.
I'm finished too.
And to be honest, I ran into quite a lot of problems throughout this. So I'm not sure about you, Amanda, but one problem I have is that it's actually quite heavy. So when I put it down, most of the times it actually just tips over. So I'm thinking if this is to go out into the wind, I don't really think it stands a chance. It's not very structurally sound, but it is colourful.
It is colourful, definitely.
What changes would you make?
Yeah, I would definitely make some changes. It's funny, that whole thing reminded me of coding, because when we're coding, we're always like making mistakes and fixing the mistakes. We call them bugs if we make mistakes, and then we debug by going back and fixing them. It was really like that. So
yeah.
I know we talked during it about how the width wasn't enough for me at the start, and I had to start measuring it with my ruler. And other things as well that didn't work. One thing I did add, which I'm really happy about, is I had this little piece of kind of cloth here that I could add to the front, because this was the sharp point of the skewer. So that's kind of a safety thing. And another thing I added was I put a little kind of eye here. That's kind of like, might look a bit weird, but what it's for is for me to count rotations. Because I was thinking to myself, I'd love to know how many times it spins round, but sure, they all look the same.
That's
so at least if I use that as my focus point, I can maybe count.
Good
Unless
idea.
it's very windy, which in that case, maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, there was lots to fix and we've improved. So now you can see the steps were important there. We had to plan it, then we did it. And as we did it and tested it, we reviewed, we fixed things, and we went again. And that's kind of going to be the steps throughout. So what we want you to do now is we want you to do kind of like what we did, except put your own spin on it. So we want you to plan your windmill. We want you to then go and make it, create it. And then we want you to test it out and go back and fix any issues you might have had along the way. One thing extra that we're going to ask you to do is test it out in different locations. So Corey, like maybe a park or a balcony, a windowsill, a garden area, and see, does it affect how it spins or how it works? And another useful thing would maybe be to count the rotations. But to do that, remember, you might have to do something similar like us. Corey kind of has colours that helps her identify the blades. I have the eye that helps me identify my blades. So you might need to put your own spin on how that works as well. Best of luck with that though.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching DreamSpace TV, and we hope that you can now build your very own windmill. Tune in next time when we're actually going to review our windmills and even learn something new. Thanks again for watching. Bye.
Bye. Woohoo! It's my windmill.
Oh.